A lot of the problems I face in school right now are mostly related to my confidence, my self-esteem. I'm okay in my grades. That's not really the problem. It's just that it's really like not building upon my confidence and like how like I can socialize with others, how I can participate in class. And that's a really big issue for me. So like my first question to you is that how can I overcome my fear of failure? Or how can I overcome my fear of like, being misjudged, which that in turn just impacts my confidence.
So let's backtrack for a second. You said that confidence is a big issue for you in school, in terms of socializing, in terms of raising up your hand and participating in class, and you said it's a big issue for you. Why is that a big issue for you? Like, what makes it unbearable? What makes it painful?
Well, I'd say a large portion of it is because that I'm keeping mostly to myself, and because I'm focusing so like deeply in my academics, I'm not focusing mostly on like being social, and in turn, it could potentially like impact my grades as well. Because if I'm not confident, I won't be confident in my grades as well. So how can I start being confident and getting over that fear of failure first before I start thinking about other stuff?
So it's not necessarily like so you're really focused with your grades right now, but then you're saying that like because you're not socializing as much, it's making you less confident. Is that correct? I'm just trying to understand the situation.
Well, no, it's like my fear of failure is that if I fail, how will other people look at me, or how will
Mm.
I think of myself? I won't feel as confident.
Okay, okay. So fail in what exactly? In terms of anything or mostly
Yeah,
just
in terms of
grades?
anything, like maybe you fail
Anything.
on a
Okay.
test, fail.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so
yeah.
tell me about that. How's that situation going?
Well, it's kind of hard to fit in with the group because that if I focus too much time on my studies, I don't really have that much time to focus with my friends and not really learn that much, and I fall behind. And yeah, because of that, like my confidence goes down, partly because that I don't have that much stuff to interact with my friends with that much.
Right,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it sounds like, if you're saying that to be able to have friends, to be able to socialize, you have to give up grades, you have to give up not spending as much time on studying. But and then if you flip it around, if you spend too much time on studying, you don't have enough common ground with your friends, right? So it's hard for you to socialize and makes you unconfident. Then, I mean, again, I'm not trying to force you to do anything, but it sounds like this group of friends you have, it might not be there might not be the most compatible, right? Their priorities, right? What they find interesting, what they like to talk about, and what their priorities are, what they find important, might not be the things that you find important, right?
Yeah.
So is that a possibility? I know I'm kind of deviating from your initial question, but I just kind of want to understand the situation.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's my friend that's the problem. It's that managing different. Okay, so I'd say the underlying factor behind all this, like all of my problems, is probably could be something related to time management. Dedicating time to friends versus dedicating time to my studies,
Hmm.
and I can't do one over the other, because if I do one over the other, I'm losing something. I'm gaining something, I'm losing something, correct?
Yeah, in a sense. Hmm.
Yeah. So if I, for example, I'm struggling to find that balance where I can spend time with my friends and spend time with myself, and also growing as a person socially and academically.
Yeah, well, that's actually very ironic because I posted a video. At the time we're doing this, I mean, like a couple hours ago. Have you seen
Mhm.
it?
No.
Or no? Okay. I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you to just watch the video and leave you alone. But basically, one of the main talking points of that video was if you want to find success in something, you have to be able to invest a lot of time in it, right? And this is common sense, right? If you want to be good at something, you have to invest a lot of time on it. And I think for a lot of people, they hold a lot of things that are of value to them. For example, maybe you go out throughout your day, you like to look at your phone, you like to watch shows, you like to play sports, you like to hang out with friends, play video games, and also you value studying as well, right? And
Mhm.
all these things, they're all of them seem equally important. Some may be a little bit more important than others. But
Yeah.
let's be honest here, if you want to guarantee that you're successful in a few things, for example, you want to guarantee that you have enough time for your friends and you still get good grades in school, you kind of have to drop everything else. And believe me, I mean, I've tried other solutions before, and you know, I've tried balancing like 4 or 5 things, right? But in reality, what I realized that balancing your life doesn't mean being able to do 15 things okay. Balancing your life means being successful in the few things that you find significant to your life. And this can change, obviously, right? So, for example, right now, in your case, you find that, okay, school is very important to me because obviously I want to have good grades, but also I want to have a social life, I want to fit in, and I think that's also an important part of my life. But then everything else, because I'm sure that just because you find these two things are important, there's probably other things in your day that you're doing that are like, yeah, I also kind of don't want to give up that. Am I correct in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And so it's just understanding that the price of guaranteeing something good or the price of getting good at something is a shitload of time. And you can have all the other stuff that you want. You can have, for example, watching shows, eating cool, junk food, going out with friends, fitness, like um, getting good grades and stuff like that, right? All these things technically could be beneficial to you growing as a person, but it'll come at the cost of being or guaranteeing good results in the things that you actually care about. And so, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but before I get to your first question, I know how you overcome fear of failure. Just understand that if you want to have time to do the things that you actually want to do, the price is getting rid of everything else. Because we all have the same 24 hours in our day, and there's there's only so much you can do before things become too hard, too much to manage, basically, right? Does that kind of make sense? Kind of went on a tangent.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And so when you said overcome your fear of failure, okay, what do you define failure as?
Not meeting my expectations.
Not meeting your expectations. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're scared of failure because it doesn't meet your expectations, but you just told me in the beginning that you don't want to take risks. You don't want to fail because of what other people will think of you. So you see how there's two contradicting answers here? And it could be both, but think. If you're scared of what other people think of you and you have an expectation for yourself, would it would it be a better answer if I said you're scared of failure because you hold yourself to a certain standard, and if you break that, you're scared that other people might not see you to that standard?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of like what other people think. That's
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So again, at the end of the day, I try to help students with building better habits. I'm not necessarily a therapist, but in situations like this, and believe me, when I first got into high school, I wasn't in a well, how do I explain this? You know how you're in primary school and then everyone like kind of goes to the same high school, right? I
Yeah.
transferred high school, so I transferred locations, so I went to a completely different high school. I knew nobody from my primary school there. And so I spent a lot of time trying to fit in with people, and I fit in with a bunch of wrong people. And so I kind of get what you're saying, but I think you would also agree that no one's situation has a one size fits all answer, right?
Hmm.
And so if I were to give any situation in terms of your social situation, I would say just try to find people who have the same interests as you and find people that will genuinely root for you in the things that you want to do, right? For example, if you say I want like, oh, I don't want to go out today and I need to study, or I can't go out today. Let's go out on the weekends. I can only go out once a week. If those are the same if your friends are the same people who are saying, oh, come on, just like it's just one day and plus like you don't even need to study that anyways. That test is easy. Like trust me, right? They're
Hmm.
not rooting for you. Those are the people that are actively working against you. You're just friends with them because it's convenient. I don't want to make assumptions here, but that's oftentimes the case. So just
Hmm.
think about that in terms of when you pick your friends, or when you evaluate your friends, are they the ones that are genuinely rooting for you, or are they just do they just want you there for their out of their convenience? Just think
Well,
about that.
how do I like how do I differentiate like which friends are good for keeping, which friends like are just temporary?
This one's tough just because like you're in high school, right?
Hmm.
I'm in high school too, but my point is most of the people you talk to at high school are probably not going to be long-term friends in university, or past university, whatever. And so the most mature thing, it's also a little bit cold, but the most mature mindset would just be to not place so much emphasis on your social status in high school, because again, they're not going to matter in 5 years, and just focus on the things that are long term, or the things that will be forever, like your skills, like your grades, like your mindset, like your health. Because these things are going to these things will always be important to you because they are part of you, and they're always going to translate to the next 5 years of your life because again, they're part of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people can't move on from that, right? A lot of people say like, oh, but like I just can't live in a world where I don't have my friends, or I don't see my friends every week, or I don't get to hang out with my friends. And so, I've dealt with situations like that before, where some people just don't want to give up friends and social status, which is completely fine. It's, you know, in our human nature, I'd say, to try to belong and try to fit in. But if I were to give you one advice to at least take a step in the right direction in terms of this whole topic, it would just be to remind yourself that you are like they might not be there in 5 years, but you will always be there in 5 years. In terms of overcoming failure, again, I think growth comes from taking risks, right? Would you say so?
Yeah.
And so if you don't take the risk and you're too scared because you're scared to fail, you're not going to grow. Would you say so? You can
I would say
disagree. I mean,
no,
okay.
I agree, I agree. I definitely
Yeah.
agree.
And so if that's the case, then again, it's a battle or a matter of priorities, right? Do you value the friends who are not going to be there in 5 years, or yourself, who is going to be there in 5 years? And in 5 years, would you rather be underskilled and with no friends, or not that many friends, because you know after high school, not most of your friends will not be there.
Hmm.
Not trying to make any assumptions, but and so correct me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
Or would you rather be confident, be or have connections, be able to socialize, be able or be capable in terms of what you want to get into in the future? Have good grades so you can get into a good university, right? And so this one is a lot more about your mind rather than your own capabilities, right? Because you have the power to like take the risk. You have the power to raise up your hand in class. But you're just
Hmm.
psyching yourself out at the end of the day.
That definitely solves the friend aspect of it. Yeah.
Anything else?
So we talked a little bit about like, spending how much time with like friends that you want to keep with yourself, friends you want to like stay with long term. And
Mm-hmm.
do you have like a general rubric I can have so that I can manage my time a bit more?
Managing your time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like to do this. It's almost like I'm copy pasting the advice that I'm giving from my video just because I just uploaded it. But
Yeah.
remember how I said that the price of guaranteeing a good result is spending a shitload of time?
Hmm.
That means that you can only focus on really 2 or 3 things that actually matter to you. For example, in my case, right, I focused a lot on getting good grades, my YouTube channel, and also just my overall mental health, right? Because obviously I'm working very hard, and so sometimes you can burn out, and I don't want to make sure that I can't burn out. So, um, yeah, those are like the two or three things that I would prioritize. And so I would ask you, what are the two or three things? And this might take a while, so I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but just think about it. What are the two or three things that you find genuinely like that genuinely matter to you, that genuinely will help you in the future, now and in the future, right? It could be school, it could be time with family and friends. Like don't get me wrong. It sounds like I'm shitting on having a social life, but I'm really not. Like if friends are important to you, and if friends are, you know, a positive impact on the way you carry yourself and everything else, no problem. So just think about that, right? And the reason why I say that is because you want to have a direction, right? When you say organizing your day, you want to say time management. What are you managing your time for? How are you going to manage your time, right? And so whenever you want to start with a goal, you always want to have a direction. So food for thought there. Any questions so far?
No, I think you summarized most of it. But like,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. I think the two more things that
Oh,
the whole
oh,
thing.
oh, just to interrupt you there.
Yeah,
Just that's the first step. I mean, again,
yeah.
if you don't want to hear me yap about it, you can just watch my video. It's basically the exact same thing I'm saying here. But
Okay.
after you find your two or three things, right now you actually have to free up time in well, free up time so you can make that change, right? Because right now you don't have you clearly you say you don't have enough time to do the things that you want to do, right?
Hmm.
And so our day is made up of five things that take up our time: school, sleep, homework, extracurriculars, which includes sports and club activities, and recharge time, right? So relaxation time, watching shows, watching YouTube, whatever. And out of those five things, only two of them we can really manage. I mean, the third one is so the two things that we can guarantee manage or change is how long we spend on homework and how long we spend on relaxation. The third one, which is a little bit iffy, is like extracurriculars. So if your parents force you to go to some weird class that you don't really care about, or you're going to some class right now that quite frankly it doesn't really matter, or maybe a club that like kinda is cool, but at the same time like you've got more important things that you need to do, it might be a good idea to drop it, right? Just to throw that out there. But in terms of your homework time and your relaxation time, these things can be managed, right? So if you're a person, would you say that you spend a lot of time like relaxing, like watching YouTube, scrolling through your phone, uh, playing video games,
Yeah, yeah. I
sort of,
feel like
yeah.
it's like a repetitive habit that I have.
Mm-hmm.
After I get back from school, I always go on my phone, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, it's been a big problem. My mom's been screaming at me day and night on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so again, these are the things that are keeping you from getting the actual time that you need to be with your friends, or to have enough time to be with your friends and get good grades, right? Because at the end
Hmm.
of the day, you're not like you don't go to sleep every single day. It's like, holy Jesus, man, that one reel just blew my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you do go to bed, and sometimes you do think, oh my God, like I'm so happy that I got that grade on that test. Like, oh my God, that hangout we just did, like, oh, that was sick. Like, I wish we could do that again sometime. Those are the memorable moments. And so again, it's all about priorities, right? And I know it's hard to fight because it's probably like a little bit of an addiction, but you gotta see where your priorities lie. And so if I were to give you advice on how to not look at your phone as much, I would just say don't use it, like stop depending on it for things, right? If you are going to take your phone, and or if you are going to watch YouTube, if you are going to use Instagram, use it on your computer. That's what I've done recently. Actually, I've deleted YouTube and Instagram on my phone, and I've stopped taking my phone to school. Now, obviously, you don't have to be as hardcore as me, right? But the main idea here is you want to make yourself less dependent on your phone and more on the other things that are less easy to be distracted from, like a computer, for example, or a laptop. hmm
Okay.
just a quick piece of advice there. I mean, I wish I could go into more depth, but I don't know. I think that's clear enough. Unless you want me to go even further down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So how can I like basically change my environment, like my basically my surroundings, or just maybe the people I'm with, like you just talked about, how can I change all of that to make sure that it aligns to my pathway?
Well, again, the first step is to understand, okay, what is the direction? What do I value? What are my priorities? What are the 2 to 3 things that actually matter? And you want to revolve your life around that. And in terms of your environment, right, you want to prime your environment for no distractions. And so if your phone is a problem, put it in the other room, or put it, if that's not enough, put it on another floor, right? Again,
Mhm.
like it sounds stupid, but think about it like this. If you put your phone upstairs and you go downstairs to work, it's understandable if you get the withdrawal symptoms, like, oh, I can't focus, like, oh, this feels so boring. But what's not
Mhm.
acceptable is you doing the walk of shame upstairs and grabbing your phone and scrolling again, right? And even if that is the case, even if you fail, because you might, right? That's how addictions go. You'll fail over and over again until eventually there will be a day where you overcome it. But if you're okay with doing the walk of shame upstairs and you're okay with letting yourself down, I don't know how I can help you. But I don't think you're that type of person, because you're very self-aware of yourself in terms of, like, oh, I think this is bad. Oh, what are other people thinking of me? And so I don't think that's going to be the case for you. So that might be something you want to try in terms of your phone. Again, other things, like in terms of environment, I always like to separate environments for different purposes. For example, this living room here I have, I usually use it just for recording and occasionally watching some videos or podcasts. I don't use this room for anything else. If I want to study, I go downstairs to the basement, right? And like, you can look this up. It's some weird psychological trick, but basically, if you're in the same room where you play and you also work, it's really hard to differentiate the two. Your brain is going to get confused. But if you go into this room that you're like, okay, like if you work in your, for example, I'm getting ahead of myself, but if you work in this room, let's say, if you work in your living room and you play or you watch videos or you do everything else in the basement, then whenever you enter this room, your brain's going to be like, okay, it's time to work. Whenever you go downstairs, it's going to be like, okay, time to relax. It may help, it may not help, but I think this works for me. You can look it up. It's kind of scientifically backed. So there's that to help you with. But in terms of environment, like, you probably already know what you need to do to make your environment better. And sometimes it's not necessarily the environment, it's just you not being able to sit still because you're not used to it, right? And so sometimes, to save time, to be more productive, to have enough time to go out with your friends, you just need to sit there and endure the distracting thoughts. And you might have to do that 30 times before you become used to it. It might not
Okay.
just be in your environment, right?
Yeah,
Did that make sense?
that makes sense. That's
Awesome.
great.
Anything else?
Um, well, first off, I wouldn't really be doing work if I didn't have motivation, correct?
Right.
And that's not really that big of a problem for me. But how can I ensure that, I'm always doing a task while feeling like I want to do the task? Because that's also like, sometimes I'm doing a task, I do not want to do it like at all. And then I just like give up. I start playing Xbox or something, PS5. You know,
Okay, yeah, this one is funny to me, because you're saying that you want, in an ideal situation, in a perfect world, you want to be motivated in everything you do.
yeah.
Yeah, that shit's not gonna happen, buddy. I'll be honest with you. That's I don't like. It's not realistic. We are not born motivated. We are like you don't wake up feeling like happy with a smile on your face 90% of the time. Being happy is technically not the default human emotion. Let's be real,
Mhm.
right? So my point is, you're never gonna feel motivated to do everything. And so it's not necessarily motivation you have to focus on. And obviously, if you can get more motivation, great. You'll feel better, you'll be more productive. Awesome. But and here's a quote that I like from Alex Hormozy. It's basically, work starts when the motivation ends, which basically means that if you only base your work off of how motivated you are worth nothing, Because a couple bad days, and suddenly you turn from, let's say, 100% productivity to zero productivity. And because you're at zero productivity, you're going to have more bad days and more bad days and more bad days. And it goes up to a point where you are worthless as a human being. Not to getting like deep or anything, but that's why basing your work and basing, when to work or when to feel like it's okay to work off of motivation is ridiculous. It's based off of feelings, and feelings can snowball into catastrophe at any time. And so I would say that it's not necessarily motivation you're looking for; it's discipline, and it's tolerance. I think that's the better word for it, because you hate doing work. Everyone does, but people put up with it, right? Like, think about it. The people who work the hardest, right? The people who work 8 hours a day with a nonstop, or 12 hours a day nonstop, maybe 16 hours a day nonstop. Do those people work with a smile on their face? Like, do you see people just like smiling, like, no, right?
Mhm.
But they put up with it. They tolerate it. And that's what makes them successful. That's what makes them productive. And that's what gives them the privilege to have time for other people, right? Because they've already gotten successful. They've already gotten skilled. They can do their job. They can make money, or they can have good grades and still do the other stuff because they put in work from before. And so, without going on more of a tangent, I think it would be more beneficial for you to get more experience with doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it, so that you learn to tolerate work in general. Because tolerating work is a skill, right? We just established that people work even when they don't want to. But some people work a lot longer and a lot harder than other people in the same condition. And that's why it's a skill, right?
Right.
So hopefully that helps, right? And to tie this back to your environment and not being distracted, see how long you can go in a room without any of the things that you like. For example, maybe it's your phone, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's your computer, maybe it's food, maybe just a notebook and pen, and just do work. Maybe notebook, textbook, and just do work. See how long you can do it. You can make it a game if you want, right? You can time yourself. See
Yeah.
how long you can do it. Because I promise you, the longer you can stay in that position, the more productive you're going to be, and the more time you'll actually have for the things that actually matter.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not too confused, right?
Yeah. That was a bit a
Awesome.
lot to confuse. Well, do you know how I can set like clear, achievable goals through this? By like, by the way you just said, like, spending time without your computer, without your phone, and just doing work. Like, what's a realistic goal I can set in everyday life on any task? You
For
know.
sure. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I think a lot of people getting this mixed up with not they get focused on the output rather than the input, in the sense that I want to be able to become jacked in 30 days, for example. And in 2 weeks, they barely see any muscle on them, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm not jacked. Like, I might as well just give up while like, and spend the next 2 weeks playing video games instead, because I'm never going to be jacked." And so, when you make your goals, I'm not saying that you're focused on the output or anything, but when you make your goals, that's a very big mistake. And so the actual way to make your goals is to focus on the inputs. And so you asked for well, a way for you to know, okay, is this day a success? Is this day not a success? Make up conditions, right? For example, if I spent 1 hour in isolation work, and for example, isolation work is what I just said, without the computer, without the phone, without the food, sitting there and doing work. You don't have to be productive. But if I just spend 1 hour in there, I would have made progress, because now I'm learning to tolerate the work. So maybe that's the first condition. Your second condition, maybe, if my screen time is below 4 hours. That's your second condition, right? And if I didn't sleep in class today, okay, like that's your third condition. If you did those three things, you could say that's a in my eyes that's a success. Because what's going to happen is that every day is a win. Every day can be a win. There will never be a day where you could do as much as you want and still feel like you lost, because you are now know that there's only three things you need to do, and these three things are completely in your control, and you can get it done in a day. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
And so to know, like, okay, how to make detailed goals that I can actually feel like I'm actually doing something. Be specific. Make up conditions. And if it helps, you can also like make a little notebook and check it off every single day. It's up to you. But at the end of the day, you keep yourself accountable. You say XYZ. I need to do XYZ every single day. But when you go to sleep, you think, did I do XYZ? Right? And if you are a person who is not completely hopeless, and you maybe say, oh, I did X and Y, but I didn't do Z today, you will feel shame. And that shame is a good thing, because it will propel you and motivate you to do Z tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Like I think I used like a few years ago, maybe not that long back, maybe like a year ago, is that I would create a sheet, and then in that sheet I would put like one goal, like one small goal that I would do for that day. And I would either put a +1 or a -1. I got this from the book Atomic Habits. It's a really good book.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that book.
And basically it said that if you focus on that one thing, you can increase that +1. And in a year, if you keep increasing that, it gets better than like, I don't know, 30 to 40%. You get better by the end of the year. But if you keep going down, then you get worse, basically. And yeah, so the entire thing is that, like, newsflash, I got worse by 10% because I wasn't following through that. I didn't have you. That's another reason too. I wasn't watching your videos.
Yeah.
But another thing was that I wasn't consistent, and consistency is a really big thing. Like, I know if you were to tell me that, I would just be like explaining the obvious. And so how can I be consistent with my small goals? I know you talked about discipline and not really so about motivation. So how can I be consistent with my small goals?
Well, start smaller, right? If you have small goals and you can't stay consistent with small goals, start smaller. It can be things like, for example, you wake up and you brush your teeth in the morning.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's again, it's about doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it. It's about being able to tolerate the things that you don't like, because that's what makes progress. Because if we did everything that we liked, well, we would all be fucking cooked. Okay, let's just say
Yeah.
that. So the way to build consistency is to start small, right? I think a lot of people have ego issues. They might not feel it, but they're gonna be like, okay, oh, I gotta lock in 2 a.m. motivation. Okay, fucking, I'm gonna do 300 push-ups tomorrow, and for every single day for the rest of my life. That's an extreme example, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? And so
Yeah.
people have this expectation, and they don't achieve the goal, and they get sad, and because they're sad, they will indulge in bad habits for the next week until again after 7 days they might get another 2 a.m. motivation, and then they're like, okay, now I'm gonna lock in. But for some reason they don't learn from their mistakes, and so they make up the same goal or a goal that's equally as hard. They don't because nobody likes to bring down their ego and be humble. No one wants to say, okay, 5 push-ups a day is all I can manage right now. I'll be happy if I do 5 push-ups a day. No one wants to say that. No one wants to say, I'm so bad with consistency that I have to just like, if I can remember to talk to my mom once a day, I'll be happy. No one wants to say that. But that's why, like, that's why most people fail. So if you can just start small, right? Like, I know you said you wanna do this in terms of work. So it can be, as long as I looked at my notebook today, I'll be happy. As long as and again, like, it's not gonna be forever. eventually you'll build up that skill of consistency, right? If you want to connect it back to atomic habits, you'll get that plus, and every single day you get another plus, right? You start small, maybe every day is a plus 0.5, but once you get to plus 10, you can start taking on 1 point challenges, right? And so instead of looking at your notebook, you can say, I want to look at my notebook and do 1 or 2 review questions from the textbook. Okay? And then
Mm.
suddenly you're getting plus 1 point of skill. And then every day you get plus 1, plus 1, plus 1 until maybe in a month you're at plus 50. Now you're looking at it, okay, you know what? Now I want to try and look at my notebook and do 5 textbook questions. And you get the point, right? Like, you just keep going up. It's progressive overload. So at the end of the day, start smaller and you'll make more progress that way. Sometimes doing less is more.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, that solves my question. Thank you so much for that. How does, because like coming from a family where my family also dictates like what I do, I know you may not know a lot about me and my family because distinct, like we're two different people. I don't know you, you don't know me, basically
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, my family basically they influence a lot about what I do every single day. If I'm trying to relax, they'd be like, no, you have to study math, you have to study comp sci, you know, and so I'm not sure how much you can contribute, but can you at least give me like some advice
In
onto
terms of
yeah, how I
family,
can, not in terms of family, but how can how can I get what I want, but like not have too much influence from family or friends that can like dictate my decisions, basically.
well, again, this kind of connects back to your first question in the sense that, like, oh my God, I don't want to, I don't, I'm scared to do things because of how my or other people are going to feel about it.
Yeah.
And so, what you're really asking is, I want permission to do what I want. And first, you have to think, okay, what do I want? What do I want to do? And as simple as it sounds, it might take you a while to think of what do I actually want to do.
Right.
Well, I would connect this to an example, but it can be anything. And then you got to think, okay, is what I want to do what someone else wants me to do? And like with parents, with friends, it's hard because those are people you hold respect to, or those people you value. But at the end of the day, are you going to put yourselves under other people? Like, I'm not going to turn this into a whole like, only care about yourself type of thing. But you have to learn, like, you have to be able to identify what you want and what other people want from you. Okay? And if those two things don't align, you have to make a choice, whether it's yourself or other people. And I always say make a choice just because I don't want to tell you like you have to care about yourself or you have to care about other people. I say make a choice because it makes you realize your own thing, which is, let's say I want to buy an iPhone, but my parents want me to buy an Android. Okay? If I buy the Android, but I before I buy the Android, I think, okay, I want an iPhone, my parents want me to get an Android. And so by buying the Android, I submitted to what my parents wanted. How does that make me feel? Okay? Does that make me feel bad? Because if it makes you feel bad, you will feel shame. Again, like, I think shame is so good as a motivator, just because if you are not hopeless, it will motivate you to make change because it will bring pain to you. And at some point, it will be so painful that you will change. You will be forced to change, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the people who mature, or the people who are the most mature, have changed the fastest. Because let's be real, like, the most mature people probably went through the exact same thinking process as you. They just did it faster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, again, I low-key went on a tangent there, but if I were to give one cut and dry advice for that specific problem, how to not let more people influence you, it would be just, after you make a decision, think, did I make this decision for other people or did I make it for myself? Because if you made it for other people, you will feel shame. If you made it for yourself, great. But if you do feel shame, eventually that shame will pile up, and then you will change something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, based off what I've learned so far, um, do things I want to do. That's first of all. Um, Basically, I'll make my pathway clear, make sure my goals are clear, um, prime my environment, prime my friends, make sure that everything's like they're all there to like help me improve and basically help me improve like through a long period of time.
Hmm.
And I just be consistent and just be disciplined instead of being motivated. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all about positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
right? Do things that are going that you know will help you, and sometimes it means making the hard decisions. But at the end of the day, after you made that hard decision, you're gonna be like, yes, I finally did it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it might be cutting off that friend. It might be telling your parents no. It might be doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it. But you will feel better about yourself when you sleep at night.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again, Anshul, for bearing with me and, well, giving me the opportunity to use you as content. Now I'm playing. But
Yeah.
thanks for hopping on the call with me, and thank you for supporting me. I
No
appreciate it,
problem. All
and I
right.
hope this has helped you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.